like a full week before the end of April, I'm coming to you with my Orilium wrap up because I have read a book for all 14 prompts. I had a couple of missed starts. I had a couple of books I really loved. So let's get into it. A lot of them are ebooks, so I'll try and remember to write the name. I need a new editor because I can't work out how to put photos in. But anyway, I'll try and remember to put the name in the text so that you know. And this is a readathon for A Magical World hosted by the wonderful G at the Book Roast. And she's just done an amazing job of putting together a whole fantasy world in which you can kind of progress through the levels. And what you do in April, it gives you clues as to what you can do in August. And last year I did lots in August too, but this year I thought I might carry on with some of that. There's like different career paths you can take, and I was like a scribe, a rift architect and a mathematician, and I thought I'd probably carry on with some of those, and I'd probably try something new and aim for 3 again, because I like to keep my options open. I think that's a better way of putting it than to say I'm just indecisive. I might be an overachiever, but I'm it's because I'm indecisive and I can't make my mind up. So anyway, 14-ish books. Okay, so the first one, and they've all got like magical subjects and like why you're reading that one. The first is Alchemy, which was transmutation. So we're learning transmutation. We need a book with a metal in the cover. And I read Arsenic for Tea by Robin Stevens. This is a middle grade historical school story mystery about a girl from Hong Kong who finds herself in this very white, very racist situation. And she's just like, give me a break. And eventually people kind of get to know her, and she has this friend who's from this very posh, again, quite racist family. And this one, she's gone home with the friend for holiday. Hazel is our heroine and Daisy is the friend. And someone in Daisy's family has clearly murdered one of their visitors. There's a flood. It's a typical locked room mystery. Like, someone's dead, the police can't get through, they have to kind of work out because there's a flood. Who did it? And it's quite fast paced, it's quite fun. It's sort of, if you liked Babel, which is a super dark academia racism story, it kind of gives me those vibes, but like frothy. So it's like, instead of you've got your brilliant single origin dark espresso, you've got a light frothy coffee beefs. So you know, that's the kind of link, but that's what it made me think of, actually. And yeah, they're fast paced, they're fun, and it's probably worth a go if you like middle grade school stories, mysteries, anything like that. And Arsenic for Tea is the second one. The second book I read was Animal Studies. I had to do a Heads or Tails, do a coin flip. I got a non-fiction, and I did have one set up for this, but then I got a recommendation for Transmission by Alex Bertie, and he's super lovely. This is a wee boy who a wee boy, I'm showing my age now, who has lived his best life all over YouTube, helping other young trans people live their best lives. And this is a book about how he does, and how his family, how he's got this loving family, and how you can yourself. So it's really aimed at trans teens and their parents. And he's just really sweet. He's adorable. I don't watch his YouTube channel. Maybe I should, but maybe I'm just too old. Okay, The Art of Illusion was next, and Make a Disguise. Match the clothes to the cover. And I did actually think I might wear this dress because I had one with like wavy blue waves on the cover. But this one, if you see, it's sort of clouds rather than waves. So I went for a grey skirt and also reading it in the bath. And Coastliners by Joanne Harris. This one I'm going to pass on straight away because I just didn't love it like I've loved a lot of her books. It's set on an island in France, which is kind of her thing. And it's about the islanders who are kind of stuck in a rut and everything's going terrible for them. And someone comes along and seems to be making it all better. And then there's this estranged woman who's been off the island for a while, decades, I think. Like, she left with her mother as a girl and she's come back as an adult. And she wants to make everything better for her and her family. And so there's a lot of family drama. There's a lot of the despair of being in a small town. And I liked it. I just didn't particularly love it. Okay, the next one is another ebook. Astronomy for an eclipse. You had to have 2 letter E's in the cover, on the title. And I misread it and thought it said 3 E's. So I put some effort to this and eventually chose The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, which actually has 4 E's. I really like this one, actually. It's a historical novelized version of the life of Liz Taylor, although no one converts to Judaism. It's basically about someone who wants to get out of her horrible life into Hollywood, and she makes it. She makes it big time, but because she's always kept her true self hidden, it doesn't really make her happy. And by the time she's ready to come out and say, yeah, I've been in this decades-long relationship with a woman, she kind of, it's too late. So she's got a lot of regrets about not being able to live her life as a queer woman honestly or openly, but it's also a lot of for the wider society, like just, you know. So yeah, I really liked it. I really liked the writing style. I was inclined to like Evelyn herself and the other characters. So yeah. The next thing, I can't actually read what I've written. It says conjuration. Oh, spirit binding. That's what it says. A friend recommendation. And my boyfriend Tom's parents were enthusing about Ellie Griffiths recently. So I read an Ellie Griffiths. She's a author who writes a variety of different mysteries in a variety of different places. This one is one of the Norfolk ones, and there's sort of ongoing plots with the lovely relationships of our lovely heroine. She's quite realistic. She's not like hyper perfect, but she's lovely, and there's a baby who's super cute. And this one takes place elsewhere. It's about someone's found the bones of King Arthur, and then there's shenanigans and white supremacy because maybe King Arthur was a Roman. And for those of you who don't know, Roman in the UK often means black because the Romans who came to invade England were from North Africa. So yeah. So there's a whole lot of like white supremacists with King Arthur, Romans, but no, they're not white at all. So yeah, anyway, I loved it. I love them all. Definitely I'm going to carry on with the series slowly at my own pace. Okay, the next is demonology and impersonators compared to a fave. So my first thing was I was going to try Kitty in the Midnight Hour because it was compared to Patricia Briggs and it was compared to Shauna Maguire. Now, Shauna Maguire deliberately puts no sexual violence in her books. That is a guarantee you have when you pick up her book. There will be no sexual violence. Kitty in the Midnight Hour was sexual violence from the first, and sexual violence that we were meant to approve of. So I was like, no, not happening. And I just basically said I looked up to see whether the rest of the internet thought it was going to get better, but they all said, it's a bit rapey. So I sent it straight back to the library, and I read Juliet Takes a Breath instead. And this was absolutely lovely. It was compared to Out of the Blue by Sophie Cameron, a magical realism story about angels and falling in love and coming out and living your best life in difficult circumstances. Juliet Takes a Breath was brilliant. It is about a young lesbian. She does leave her home in order to go somewhere else, but that's where it ends. It's a contemporary romance about this really sweet girl who just wants to write, and she moves to the West Coast and meets an author, an older lesbian, and kind of comes to terms with the fact that maybe her hero isn't all great all the time, but that maybe she can be great, and maybe the younger generation are better, and they're better and better and better, which is, as you know, absolutely on brand for me. I definitely think that people are getting better. Young people are fantastic. Teenagers are great. So yeah, so I definitely loved Juliet Takes a Breath. I thought it was more like, I listened to it as an audiobook, and it's about a young Chinese American girl who gets taken advantage of, and she goes to live with a grandmother and finds her lesbianism. I can't remember what it's called, but I'll look it up and pop it down here. And yeah, I thought it was more like that, which I also loved. So, and the audiobook was fantastic. Okay, the next one, Flowers on the Cover. This was for elemental studies, botanicals, Flowers on the Cover. I started The Name of the Rose by Umberto Eco, and I'm just not enjoying it. There's nothing I can exactly put my finger on. Well, I don't really like the main character. I don't really like any of the characters. Maybe that's it. They don't seem to have a lot of kindness. It's a very dry book. It's got all the kindness and humanity taken out. So I'm not enjoying it. So again, I'm probably going to actually DNF that, although I haven't decided entirely. You know what? I'm deciding right now. Not reading it. So I read Thorn instead. And it's amazing. It is a Goose Girl retelling. It's about this girl who is just an ordinary girl. She just wants to live her life. And unfortunately for her, she's a princess and her family hate her. So she's just like an ordinary quiet girl, and she goes to marry this prince. Only her lady in waiting, who she's got into trouble in the past, forces her to change places magically. And there's a talking horse, and there's just lots and lots of lovely relationships, and the meaning of justice comes up, and she's just an ordinary down to earth. She's not a hero. She's not born to be a hero. She's just the person doing what she has to do to survive. And she really cares deeply about justice for everyone in a way that most of the ruling people in that world or this don't. So yeah, absolutely lovely. Would definitely recommend it. The next one was Spells and Incantations, Magic Missile. So it has a target length of 389 to 415 pages, which this one just about squeaked in. So Lessons in Chemistry. It is a historical fiction about a female chemist who firstly finds it hard to get any kind of education or any kind of certification, certainly, but then she's not taken seriously as a chemist, or where she is, it's because the men are stealing her ideas and passing them off as her own. And she ends up doing this cookery show and treating it as a chemistry show and teaching lots of people, and all the women are like, yeah, she's taking me seriously, she's doing this properly. So it's kind of sweet, it's kind of lovely, it's got this wonderful family relationships in it because it's all about her daughter and her, and it's just a lot of people standing up and saying, no, I'm done. I'm not going to be like that anymore. And it kind of feels like how the 50s and 60s really went. So yeah, really lovely. Artificers, Conduit Enhancement, Start a Read with a Snack. And I read Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, which is a book about some programmers who make friends in their childhood, gamers. They make friends around games when they're little, and then they learn to make games together, and then there's all this kind of rolling. One of the things I loved about this book is it's kind of got unmarked Judaism. So it's not like this is a Jewish story. It's like this is and universal story. So why not make it about people who aren't wasps? And I love that. I love that. I love that. So it's got all this story and it goes through their lives, kind of showing their friendship and how they sort of fall in and out of loving each other. Never in love, never lovers, but like falling out and making friends again and making games and being games. And it's about games as intimacy. And I actually don't play a lot of computer games, although I love board games. So, no, that's not true. I play a lot of like silly little phone games, but that's it. Yeah, so I really loved it. In case you're wondering, my snack was I had celery sticks with tiramisu latte. Okay, inscription for Glyph for Flight, and it was a book from the top shelf, and I can't find the book that I did read, so I'm going to hold up this one, which I had high hopes for. He's very engaging as a tweeter, but it was dull. So I read The Man Who Died Twice by Richard Osman. I found The Man Who Died Twice. I'm not quite sure why it's there, but there it is. So Thursday Murder Club. It's got these 4 old people who have bring all their various skills and life experience to solving cold cases as their kind of like club, their social activity in this old people's home. And they're brilliant. And one of them gets attacked, unfortunately, towards the beginning of the book, and they have to kind of work out how that happened. And then there is like one of their ex-husbands turns up and you have to work out what's going on with him. So it's really engaging. The characters are really lovely and I would heartily recommend. It's another one you can get in Tesco. Okay, the next one, Lure, which is kind of legends with a book with a map. So I was given this and it's got this lovely map. And it is a historical fiction about a Quaker who, jilted at home, moves to the US and ends up doing being with the Underground Railroad. So it's got Quakers and quilting and the Underground Railroad, and that's why my friend said she'd given it to me and it sounds perfect. She's just exactly brilliant at choosing books for people. And it's wholesome, it's lovely. It's got this kind of interaction with like how much should white people do, like that's a thing that a lot of people grapple with, especially in the middle of the slave trade. And yeah, it was brilliant. Loved it. I only had one slight niggle, which was she got some of the grammar confusing and that kind of jolted me out of the story. But if you can read past that, if grammar is going to get you, give it a miss. But otherwise, I liked it. The next one, again, I had a physical copy of this, but I think I might have sent this to Book Booth early. Psionics and Divination, Clouds on the Cover. And I read The Scaredy Cat by Mark Billingham. This was it's got twin timelines and twin murderers. So it kind of shows them in their childhood becoming the sort of friendship group that does horrible things. And then it shows their victims and the police in the current time, and you have to kind of work out who they are in the current time, and the police have to stop the murders before it happens. So yeah, it was engaging. I like dual timeline stuff like that, kind of, you know who he is but you don't know who he is, and it kept me guessing right until the end. I was absolutely certain I knew who the murderer was, and I was wrong. So yeah, I really love that point of view. I had a blurb on the back from Martina Cole. It was quite dark in a Martina Cole-y kind of way. If you like Martina Cole, probably worth a try. I haven't read any Martina Cole for ages, so if you don't know who Martina Cole is, she writes very kind of dark, depressing thrillers. I suppose not necessarily depressing, but bad stuff happen in the but they usually have a good ending. So yeah, if that sounds like your thing, you should go ahead. They're quite scary. And yeah, this one also, although less scary than Cole's. The next one was Restoration, where you had to close your eyes, shuffle and point, and I just like shuffled some books, put them on the bookshelf behind me and pointed, and it came up with Once Upon a Broken Heart, which I did actually read finally, and I loved it. It was just like Caraval. It's a fantasy romance with lovable characters and just a lot of magic, and it was just delightful. And about who gets happy endings and whether it's worth giving other people happy endings or whether you should be like, there was something, I can't remember which book it was saying about a hero is someone who gives up love for the good of everyone else, and a villain is someone who gives up everyone else for the good of love. Well, this book kind of embodies that feeling, and it was really lovely, and I'm so glad I finally got around to reading it. I can't think what took me so long. I just kept putting it off. And the last book I read was Shape-Shifting to Turn into a Wolf. So a book with a wolf on a cover, and I read Rule of Wolves by Leigh Bardugo. This is, I think, the last in the Grishaverse series, and it was a bit slower than I remember any of the others being, but it's also possible that I read all the others like quite close together, and then I sort of forgot about this duology, King of Scars and Rule of Wolves. So it's a while since I read King of Scars, but it's got lots of Nikolai, lots of Zoya. Alina and Mal have kind of gone into retirement. So yeah, it's about good triumphing over evil because it's the last book. So yeah, I enjoyed it. I can see why people don't love it because it's got this kind of fake Eastern Europe, which is, as I said last time I was talking about it, so fake. It just went over my head that he was even trying to do that. But yeah, it's a high fantasy good evil thing, and if you've read all the rest, you might as well get to it. But you should read Grishaverse in order, really, I think. And we're currently watching the TV series Me and My Husband, and it's lovely. So yeah, I am delighted that I've managed to read all 14 books, and it's only the 24th. So I've got a whole week more of reading before I get stuck into Escape the Readathon with Books with Lexi in May. How are you doing? I hope you're having a good month too, and I will see you soon. Bye!